The topic of abortion is the deciding topic for like all liberals, both men and women now, because as we've seen, liberal women, this is the only issue that they care about. And I don't know how you can't recognize that this might be something that is being used as a tool of manipulation when it is literally the only thing that you care about. When you know yourself that you are not talking about the economy, you're not talking about the border, you're not talking about crime, you're not talking about housing prices, you're not talking about inflation. When you know that the only thing that you can focus on is abortion, to me, that would be an indicator that maybe you would need to take a step back and wonder why that is, and wonder if it really is because this issue is that important, or if it really is being used as this tool to bind you to a particular side of the political aisle, absent of logic and reason, but so that they can get away with doing all of these other things that are destroying our lives. But they've made this one issue so important that they can get you to ignore everything else, if that makes sense. So it just blows my mind, because this conversation has gone so far beyond from where it started, which was safe, legal, and rare, to anytime, any reason, any level, any number of weeks of gestation, any, there doesn't have to be a reason. It doesn't have to be a medical condition. It doesn't have to be a threat to the mother's life. It doesn't have to be a traumatic situation. Any woman that wants to get an abortion at any time, we have no right to stand in her way. And this has also been tied to women's rights as if it is the only thing that defines our rights. Ironically, as all of these women that support abortion are allowing men into women's bathrooms, locker rooms, dorms, sports, awards, scholarships, all of these things. Like, under Democrat policies, we don't even have the right to our own bathrooms anymore. So it's astonishing. But just to lead up, that's what this particular conversation is about. So we're going to listen to this lady. We're going to kind of interject. I would love to, I'm going to read your comments as they're coming in, but this is the topic that she touches on, which is abortion. So she jumps in there. She's ready to debate Ben Shapiro. So let's get into it. And again, let me know if you can hear this, because sometimes I'm not sure if my clips are coming through.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, how are you?
Hello. Nice to meet you. Oh wow, you look better in person. Okay, so
That's very sweet of you. I don't often get that, so thank you.
Okay, it's fine. How do you define abortion really quickly?
Abortion would be the forcible termination of an unborn human life.
Yes, but like, why do you hold that definition? Like, would you not assume like something like a C-section would be considered an abortion?
No, because the baby is born alive. So how would that be an abortion?
What does the definition of abortion have to include the death of a fetus?
Because that's literally the definition of abortion.
It literally isn't, though. Where are you getting this definition from?
Where are you getting your definition from?
Let's go to like.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt so quickly, but right across the screen it says the Harvard Medical School definition of an abortion is the removal of pregnancy tissue products of conception or the fetus and placenta after birth from the uterus. Yes, that is the medical definition of abortion, is removal of the pregnancy, but an important component of that, obviously, is that it's the ending of the pregnancy. It's the ending of that baby's life. There's no other definition. There's no other, we have to have the separation between what an abortion is versus what a birth is versus what a miscarriage is. And she's very nervous, so she's talking very, very fast. So I'm trying to just kind of tune into what she's saying. But again, we're already debating the definition of abortion when we have always understood what it is, what this procedure is, and the very significant differences between an abortion versus giving birth or having a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy. So let's, Terry Ryan says that definition is too ambiguous. I agree. They do need to put in there, it's not just a removal of any baby, it's the intentional ending of that baby's life and then removing it. So we're already shifting around these definitions, which to me, it feels like if you were really in favor of abortion and you based on what it actually was, you wouldn't feel the need to shift around these definitions so often. You wouldn't need to move the goalposts as often as these people do. It's like, you know what an abortion is. And if it's something that you truly feel like saves women's lives, why do you constantly feel like you have to move things around in order to accept it, in order to make it justifiable in society? Because to me, if you constantly have to change words and definitions, that means that you're really not okay with what it is. And you have to change things in order to reconcile what it is that you're in favor of in your own mind. So let's listen a little bit more here.
What, like, do you like fucking like Mayo Clinic, like any fucking like hospital you've ever gone to before?
And I apologize for the language. Most of them don't get into it as much. And I know that it really doesn't bother most people. It bothers me a little bit, but that's just the way. And am I being a little bit judgmental? Can we normalize like not dropping the F-bomb like every other word? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm not judging. It's kind of grating on my ears sometimes. Grating is what I meant to say. Anyway, all right, let's listen to a little bit more here.
A C-section ends with the birth of the child.
Right, but
I know,
but abortion,
both I and all three of my siblings were born via
generally.
C-section.
Yeah, I understand this.
I'm here. I'm talking to you.
I know, baby.
Thus I was not aborted.
I understand this, but like yes, but like no. Well, yes, but like no. But no, you could simply say that abortion is simply the ending of a pregnancy, right? So the ending of a pregnancy outside of the natural birth of a fetus. So I don't see that. I don't see why you would say that like it would have to end in the death of a fetus, which is why I'm pro-abortion all 9 months, right? Because say if a woman is not able to pass a fetus in the natural way, we can have these other abortion processes that would say like, okay, like she needs some type of induction that doesn't include the actual natural expulsion of a fetus, but it doesn't always end in the death of a fetus. So I don't see how you could say that Kamala Harris' stance is immoral in this sense.
I just don't understand how you're removing the death of the fetus from the equation about abortion. That's literally the entire moral issue. You and I would not even be.
Okay. So we're shifting around to definitions here. And to me, a thought that I had when I was listening to this the first time is that you have to have very, very clear definitions about what certain procedures are and what they are not. I have had 3 children. None of them were aborted. I delivered them. I gave birth to them. There is a very big difference between that and abortion. But if you start tying this together, that's where we get into this realm of doctors don't know what the law is. Women don't know what their rights are in healthcare. So when these women get in here and start saying that abortion is the same thing as having a C-section or the same thing as delivering a baby, that's where these are the people that are causing problems in medical care, where doctors are suddenly like, we don't know what the law is and we don't know how to help women. That's why, when we have people that have to, remove their limbs or remove body parts as far as, having a medical condition like cancer or a tumor or something that says, there's a problem with their limb, whether they've had a car accident, we are okay in those circumstances of saying, yeah, you definitely need to remove those limbs, remove those body parts to save that person's life. But then when we start tying this into things like gender affirming care, where we're saying, it's okay to remove limbs in these circumstances, but not in these circumstances, it's like, well, that's why we have to have lines drawn and very specific definitions about what some procedures are for and what they are not for. And maybe that wasn't, not a great comparison. But again, when we're trying to tie this to like abortion, saying that it's the same as a C-section, the same as delivering a baby, or pretty much any circumstance where a baby is coming out of a woman's body is an abortion, then you start to get into this area where we either can't have a law that bans anything, or we have to have laws that allow everything. We can't have any middle ground. And that's where the danger in healthcare really comes from. Let's get into it. Let's watch this. There's only about a minute left. Let's see what else she has to say.
Be arguing if we were talking about C-sections or about natural birth.
But it seems like at its core, though, we disagree on what the inherent definition of abortion is.
You could leave away. We could very easily solve this. Let's just not talk about the word abortion. Let's talk about the forcible termination of a baby.
Okay. So then, what do you value in the fetus then?
The life of the fetus.
Okay. So then, when is this? You said it begins at conception.
Yes.
And why is that?
Because that is literally the biological definition of when an independent life begins.
But like, why does it have moral value?
It has moral value because that's literally the biological definition of when a human life begins.
Right, but like, why does that have moral value though?
Okay, why does any life have moral value?
I would value sentience.
But why?
Right, because
based on what?
This is simply.
Okay, so now we've shifted the conversation away from the actual abortion procedure, and now we're into this realm of, well, why does this life matter at all? Like, who decides what lives matter and what lives don't matter? And this is very dangerous language. And I don't, and again, like, I don't think that these young adults that are being indoctrinated to think this way realize how dangerous it is when we can start determining whose life has value and who doesn't, based on things like convenience, based on things like exterior circumstances, whether or not they're going to have the best life, whether they're going to live in poverty, whether they could have a challenging situation, whether they have a less than ideal medical condition like Down syndrome. You know, we're starting to dictate, we're starting to play God and say which lives, you know, and place these criteria that people have to meet, that a human being has to meet before they are granted the right to live. And now she's asking, well, why does that life have any meaning? Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? It's like arguing with a toddler. And it's funny because on one of my videos that I posted probably a few weeks ago about Gen Z getting fired at an astronomical rate, somebody left a comment under that video where basically saying, like, we have to re-socialize young adults. And I know that, you know, socializing isn't relevant to this particular conversation, but it's almost like we have to like reintroduce critical thinking and treat these young adults like they're toddlers, because they haven't been taught to, they've missed like all of these fundamental developmental milestones, like independent thinking, like moral thinking, like reasonable thinking. And now like everything is in question and anything goes. I know that was kind of a bit of a rant, but it's just, to me, that this line of thinking is so dangerous. So we'll listen to the last 40 seconds of this. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and then we'll get into the next clip.
This is simply what we value, like you and I value. Like, is it okay to like unplug like a brain dead patient, for example?
I mean, the question is whether it's okay to unplug a brain dead patient. Actually, quite a controversial one in sort of religious circles.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as why, I'm just wondering if somebody's in a coma and you know they're going to wake up, do you have the right to unplug them?
Well, coma's not brain death, though. We know that there's future sentience there. Like, it would be like a matter of like a conjunct of like past, future, like past, present, or future sentience. But like a person in a coma has. I
agree, and guess what? Fetuses also have guaranteed future sentience.
Well, no, because you're only valuing one half of the conjunct. That's not right. So it would be past, present, or
now
future.
You're changing the topic. I mean, we started with what's the value of the fetus.
Okay, so then. So then she's bringing in this, okay, well, let's bring in another standard, future sentience. And he's like, well, let's get into this conversation about people that have had sentience and maybe they end up in a coma, maybe they end up in a medical condition where we're not entirely sure what the brain function is or whether they're going to wake up or what that future looks like, what their quality of life looks like. So what this means is the standards that they apply to babies can be applied to anybody else, whether it be somebody who is elderly, whether it be somebody who is handicapped and relies on other people to function and to help them survive. And that's, again, where this dangerous language comes in, where it's like we can determine whether or not somebody's life has value based on certain criteria instead of the overall criteria that the Constitution affords us and says that everybody has the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And we don't get to take that away from them just because we're the one in a higher position of power. Like, we're the ones that can pull the plug, so therefore we have a right to do so. Just to look at a couple comments here. And I apologize if I cannot pronounce your screen name, Impercalisi. I'm sorry. She, why a fetus has moral value. He, why your life has moral value. She, are you kidding me, BLM? It's true. And if you applied race to this conversation and it was about Black children and Black babies in particular, then she would probably throw out there Black Lives Matter, all Black Lives Matter, no matter what, which is interesting because in some cities and some states where they have very, very liberal abortion laws, meaning they have very little restrictions, more Black babies tend to be aborted than to be born. So That just shows how little they know about this subject, how little they've really thought about it. And at the end of the day, they had this person had a little bit more time, probably would have said, my body, my choice, end of story, which is really just what it comes down to. I want to be able to be as promiscuous as possible. I want to be able to do whatever I want. And then I want to be able to avoid the consequences of those choices. That's really what the whole thing comes down to. And if you don't allow me to do that, you are taking away my rights. Never mind that you as a man can put on a dress and come into my bathroom and come into my dorm and take over my awards and scholarships. That would be perfectly fine. But if you want to stand in the way of me avoiding the consequences of some of my other life choices, then you're taking away my rights.